So, welcome back to a tailor's approach to cloth sewing in Blender. It's part 3 and we're going to talk about drafting and cutting. Originally, the title is cutting and adjusting, but I just figured that I got a better name for it. So, we've got our measurements from the previous part. Now, we just have to translate it into the real thing. In this part, we're gonna draft and cut 4 meshes: the body, the arm, the cuff, and the collar. Before we do anything in Blender, we'll have to process the measurements we have in our notepad. So here's the thing. Though I've mentioned in the last video that you may prefer doing your measurements in inches, but now, if you're using inches in your measurements, it may be the right time for you to convert it to centimeters. Why? First, because we're gonna divide these measurements, and if it's not a round number, we'll round it up. So, if you're using inches, rounding things up may be a bad idea because inches is 2.5 times bigger than centimeters. So you just end up with a less accurate draft pattern. Second, if you build your shirts in inches, you're gonna have less faces and also vertices. A 1 meter long object divided by an inch, that is 2.5 centimeters, will only have 40 faces, while when it's divided by centimeters, it will have 100 faces. This too will end up making your shirt less accurate when you apply cloth simulations into it. With that being said, let's jump into it. So here's the measurement, and for the bust, waist and hips, we are gonna divide it in by 4. You may be asking, why 4? Well, because we've got the front left, the front right, the back left, and back right. So that's why we've got 4 sides. Then that's also why we're gonna divide it by 4. So now for the bust, we've got 98 divided by 4. It's going to give us this number, 24.5. Just like I mentioned earlier, we're gonna round it up to 25. The waist is good because it gives us a nice round number. For the hips, the same, it's gonna be 25.5, and I'll round it up to 26. Now for the neck, we're gonna divide it by 2. Why? Because there's only left and the right part only. So yeah, so 41, it's gonna be 0.5. We'll make it we'll make it 21 centimeters. Okay, for the armhole, bicep, and elbow, and cuff, we're gonna divide it by 2 for the the front and back part only. So divide it by 2. For the armhole, it will give us a nice 20. The bicep not so much because it gives us 17.5 centimeters, and round it up. The elbow we've got 14. For the cuff we've got a nice 10. Now the shoulder length, we're gonna divide it by 2 because there's the same, I mean, like, there's only left and the right part only, and yeah, divided by 2, and we've got another, sorry, 17.5. It's kind of the same with the bicep, so it's going to be 18. And the arm length, we don't divide it as well as the shirt length. The nipples distance, we're going to divide it by 2, the same, and we've got a nice 10. And yes, with this being done, we've got the numbers, and I guess we'll go back to Blender. Okay, let's do that. So here's the scene like we have left it, and what we're gonna do, we're just gonna hide the mesh and the measurements, and let's reset the cursor to the world origin, and we're going to make the first thing that we need is a plane mesh. Yes, it's nice and rectangular, just like what a sheet of fabric is gonna look like. By default, if you see, hang on, I think I need to start the shortcut, and by default, the plane mesh has 2 meters by 2 meters dimensions. We don't really need that much because if you see from our measurements, the longest that we need is the shirt length, and that is like 73 centimeters, so 1 meter is more than enough. So yeah, the next we're gonna divide it into centimeters, and this is what I mentioned earlier. It means that because it has 1 by 1 meter dimension, and there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter, so it will have 100 faces vertically and horizontally, so it's gonna be 10,000 faces in total. So yes, we're just gonna do that. And how to do that? The first thing, I think we're just gonna have apply the scale, so we have a nice 1 scale, and after that we just have to, go to edit mode and divide this and set the numbers of cuts into 99. By doing this, if you see, we've got 10,000 faces in total, with 100 faces horizontally and 100 vertically, and that's just what we want. So yeah, that's cool. And yeah, so just like I've mentioned earlier that we're gonna make 4 different meshes, but we're gonna make the arm and the cuff on the same plane. So actually we're just gonna need 3 meshes, plane meshes, and so yeah, we're just gonna duplicate this thing 2 times, so that we got 3 planes. Let's rename it body color double L and arm and cuff. So we're just gonna put it into new collections, just call it fabric, so that it's nice and tidy. Let's do the body first. Okay, now the first thing, we need to mirror this, so we're just gonna cut it in half and apply the mirror modifier. So if you remember from the last part, the shirt length measurement is actually done at the very last. But in here, it's actually the first thing we're gonna need to do. And why? Because to save a lot of our time, I actually have learned a little but important trick. And that is to color code the plane object according to its body parts. If you see from our shirt length measurements, you'll see that it's cut into 3 parts: the waist, and the bust, the waist, and the hips. So what we're gonna do is to color code the plane object using 3 different shaders to indicate each of the 3 parts. In addition to these 3 shaders, we're gonna add one extra, and that is the cut shader, and with it we're gonna mark the cut points. So let's make it. Go to the material properties and make it. Call it bust for the first, second waist and hips. Also one extra cut. Now we just gotta assign colors for each shader, not in the surface, but in its here, viewport display down below. You see, I prefer a contrast color, so something like red. And then for the waist, we just gonna get something like cyan. For the hips, we'll go for I guess purple is great. And for the cut shader, I'm just gonna go for black. Yeah, that's it. Now let's do this. Anyway, if you haven't, I think you should turn on the statistics so that you can see, you know, how many faces or edges or vertices that you select. And yeah, okay, let's do this. In my measurement, the shirt length is 73 in total. So here's the thing, we have 100 faces. We don't need that much. So we're just gonna measure 73 faces, go to the next face, and we delete any faces next to it. Okay, let's check. And we've got a correct number, 73 faces. Okay, now we are gonna apply them to our three main measurements. For my measurements, my bust is 28, my waist is 17, and the hips is also 28. And let's do this. Let's do it. Get 28, go to the next face, drag everything below it, and apply the waist. And then we will count another 17, go to the next face and drag anything below that and apply it to hips. Yeah, that's it. Now it's easier to see instead of that, you know, plain gray. Okay, now we have color-coded the area. We can begin marking the actual measurements. Okay, the busts. Okay, we've got the bust 25 centimeters, the waist 18, and the hips 26. Okay, let's mark them. So for the waist, for the bust, we've got 25. Let's mark 25. Go to the next face and apply it to the cut shader. Okay, for the waist, we've got 18. Go to the next face and apply the cut. Same thing with the hips. Got 26. Go to the next face and apply the cut shader. And yeah, that's 3 of our most important measurements on the body mesh. After we've done it, I think we're gonna make darts. You see, the function of the darts are not actually to make your shirts slimmer, but they're to make them shaped better. You see, our body is more of a curve instead of a straight line. Of course, this line from the bust, waist, and hips is gonna make, you know, a curve, but they're gonna make only 2. Now that we're adding 1 dart for each side, we'll end up having 4 extra curves, which will curve and shape the shirt better. Okay, this is actually where our weird nipples distance is gonna be used. The dart will start at 2 centimeters below this, below the, where is it? Oh, sorry. The darts will start 2 centimeters below the bust line. So 1 and 2 here, and we're gonna measure, because my nipples distance is 10 centimeters, so we're gonna measure 10. Okay, that's too much. Go for 10, and we've got 10, and the width of the dart will be 2 centimeters. So we're gonna add the next face to the cut, because this 2 face represents 2 centimeters. So we're gonna apply them to the cut shader. The next, we're gonna measure how long this dart gonna be. To do that, we just have to measure from this point, 1 face below the cut, to the waistline. in my case, it is 15 faces, 15 centimeters. So add another 15 centimeters down, so giving us 30 faces. Go to the next face, also the one next to it, and apply the cut shader. And that's it. That's for our darts. So here is an important adjustment that's gonna save a lot of our time. You see, by adding darts, we actually have cut our waist circumference. Remember that each dart have 2 centimeters in its width at the waistline. And multiply that by 4 and we've actually cut 8 centimeters from our waist circumference. So to reverse that, we just have to add that 2 centimeters to the waist measurement. So instead of this 18, we're gonna add 18 with 2 centimeters, so we get 20, and make a new cut mark. So we just delete this, delete the old waist mark, and assign it back to the waist. And that's it. Now we're gonna do the neck and armhole. And they're kind of different from the other measurements because they don't form a straight line. Instead, they form more of a curve. So we're gonna use another built-in add-on called Curve Tool. The tool actually functions like the Measure It add-on, but instead of measuring an object's circumference, Curve Tool enables us to measure a curve's length. So let's bring in the Blender preferences. Now, I think you cannot see it because I think I've turned it on in my OBS. My OBS doesn't capture that as now. Just gonna add another window capture. Okay, that's it. Now you see it. Now you see the Blender preference, and you just have to type Curve Tool here. It's already built in. You don't have to download it, an extra add-on. It's already here. You just need to activate it. I have activated it. So yeah, you can close it. And let's hide my preference from the OBS. And you might be questioning where is the add-ons gonna be. It's just like the Measure It that is kind of hidden. The Curve Tool is actually hidden in the Edit category here. Curve Info, Curve Edit, this is the Curve Tool. So yes, let's continue. So, okay, here's the problem. Though, for example, that we know the neck half circumference is 21 centimeters, but we don't really know how to make the curve with 21 centimeters in length. So for the neck and also the armhole, we are actually one measurement short. And that is the vertical and horizontal dimension of the curve. With this measurement, we can also solve another problem. That is, the front and the back part of the neck are different. Unlike the other measurements, whose front and back parts are identical, the neck is not. So let's take this new measurement. First, I'm just gonna hide the fabric collections and bring back the measurement. I probably just hide the model. So let's see our neck measurements. If you observe from the top, the neck is kind of flat in. I'll bring in my annotation tool. Okay, you'll see that the neck is kind of flat on the back, and they're kind of more angled on the front, right? So that's how our necks are shaped too. So unless that your model is extremely stylized so that it ends up having a pencil shaped neck, then we can actually use our neck measurements to determine the dimensions of the vertical and the horizontal dimensions of the neck. And fortunately, if you see, we actually also have our shoulder measurement that's kind of already in place, and I'm gonna reuse that as well. Let's duplicate it and bring it up so that it's on level with the neck measurements. Now you realize that this tipping point on the neck measurements, this one and this one, is actually intersect with the the shoulder measurement. This duplicated shoulder measurements, and that's actually how it's supposed to be, because if your shoulder measurement is too backwards, if your shoulder measurement is too backwards, something like this, try to bring it back so that it's there. Because if it's too backwards, it's bad. But if it's too forward, it's also bad. So just try to place it around these intersections. Now let's hide the annotations first, and we're going to shape this new shoulder measurement so that it can measure the vertical and the horizontal dimensions of our neck measurements. So to do that, we just go to edit mode, pick the one vertex at the end, turn on the snapping tool, and you're just gonna have to move it until it snaps. Sorry, bounding box. Oops. What happens? Sorry. Turn on the vertex, and yeah, just have to snap it until it touches this intersection, the tipping point between the flat part and the angled part of the neck. Okay, we got our horizontal neck measurement. So the next we're going to need the vertical one. How to do it? Just subdivide it and pick the middle vertex, exclude it, snap it, to the middle of the bottom of the back part of the neck measurements, and then we just have to extrude it to the front. And yeah, we've got this cross shaped measurement now. And yeah, that's our measurement. Okay, with this done, let's measure it. Let's use the measure it tool back. First, we just delete all and recalculate it and show. Okay, that's our new measurements gonna be. Okay, let's write it down on our notepad. Okay, this is horizontal, that's vertical. The horizontal, the left and the right should be the same, so it's 7 and 7. While the vertical is going to be different. It's going to be 4 for the back and 7, not 7, 8, rounded up, for the front. Yep, that's good. Okay, now that we've got the vertical and horizontal dimensions of the neck, now, though we've known that the neck half circumference is 21 centimeters, but with the front and the back part being different, we still have no idea how to divide them correctly, right? To do that, we just need to recalculate our neck measurements. Instead of going the whole circumference, we just measure these edges on the back and again on the edges on the front. So yeah, let's delete them first, and just gonna this one, calculate it, and we've got 9 back and front, 9, delete it, and now measure the front part, and we've got 11.4 and round it up, so we got 12. Okay, so we've got 9 and 12. If you add them up, we'll get the same 21 centimeters, and that's the correct number. Okay, let's hide it, and we're going back to the fabric mesh, and the first thing is we're gonna apply the horizontal and vertical dimensions. So we're gonna measure 7. Okay, go to the next phase and apply it. Apply the cut shader. Next, we're gonna go down 8. 8, right? Yep, 8. And we're going to mark these 3 faces to the cut, as well as this one on the left, on the middle. So we know that where it's going, so it should be this and this to this. And yeah, if you check, it's 7 horizontally, 8 vertically, and it's also 7 and down here. And yeah, that's the horizontal and vertical dimensions of the neck. This one is for the front part, but we're also gonna do the back part here too. So the thing that we need, because the back one is 4, the dimensions is 4, we just have to do 4 here and apply this and this one to the cut shader. 7 and 4. That's it, I guess. Now, next we're gonna build the actual curves. So let's just get a Bezier, and this is the easy way to do it. We just go to edit, pick one handle, and with the snapping tool we just bring it to this point. The other, first just scale it down so it's easy to see. Okay, and click the handle, put it there. So the trick to have this balance curve is actually to make them meet. If you see that this bottom curve handle meets with the top ones in here, and that's what we want, because that creates a nice balanced curve. So yeah, let's check its length. How to use this actually quite easy. Just go for the curve info and click the length, and they will tell you the length here, though I guess it's in meter, so it's 13 centimeters, 13.5, and that's a little bit too big because our measurements is 9 and 12, so it needs to be 12. I wonder, actually, no. Okay, so now we just have to scale it down until it becomes 12 centimeters, and to do that we just gonna change this one to the individual origins, and now we can scale it down without moving the handles positions. Okay, now check the length, it's getting near. Okay, a little bit, it's almost there. Okay, that's too much. Okay, that's good. This is for our front part of the neck, so let's duplicate it and make the back part of the neck. Just gonna drag it up until it's in the correct positions, and we're just gonna put it, change back the bounding box, put it there. So here's the thing, this is kind of different because now that it's only 4 faces down, while this one is 7 faces out. So what we gotta do is to make a balanced curve, it's just to have them have the same amount of faces. So this is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and these two should have another 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's it. I'm just gonna check the length. It's 9.3, it's close. Go back to individual origins, scale it down until we got a nice 9. Okay, that's too much. Good. That's it for the curves. Let's rename it neck front. This one, neck back. Okay, that's being done. Okay, I think we'll just leave it here because we're gonna cut them later. So the next is the shoulder. Okay. For the shoulder, if you see from my measurements, it's 18. Okay. Let's go back to the plane mesh and measure 18. Okay. Go to the next face, apply the cut, and we've got our shoulder. So next, we need to make a slope from the neck to the shoulder, because if you say from our model is that the neck, this point, and okay, let's turn it off. Okay, from this point to the shoulder, from the neck to the shoulder, it creates kind of a slope. So yeah, they're kind of sloped and they're not kind of straight like this. So they kind of go down to this point. So that's what we're gonna make. To determine how much slope we need, we can actually reuse that new neck dimensions we have just created. So let's hide the model. Okay, let's use this, duplicate it, and yeah, what we're gonna need is extrude it along its x-axis, and then extrude it down along its z-axis until it meets with our shoulder tip. This is our shoulder. This is the shoulder slope measurements. Okay, that's about right. Just okay, there. And we just have to recalculate this segment and segment, and we've got 2.7. Okay, let's delete it all first so we got a clear reading. Okay, and we've got 2.78, and we're gonna round it up to 3 centimeters. Okay, shoulder slope 3 centimeters. Okay, with that done, we can go back to the mesh. We just can hide it and go back to our mesh. And this is our shoulder mark. We're just gonna have to add 3 because our slope is 3 centimeters. We gotta make another mark here. And there. So that's how we got our shoulder slopes. Now this one is important thing that you can do to save a lot of our time. It's actually the same thing, the same adjustment that we do with the waist measurement, because we add darts. So this time we're gonna adjust the shirt length because remember that we are actually based the shirt length measurements from let's bring back the measurements. You'll see that this is the shirt length measurement, and we've kind of based it on the shoulders, from the shoulders to the hips measurement. Of course, I realized that it's not level with the shoulder, but if we give it a show, you realize that it's 28, right? For example, if we actually bring it back to the shoulder measurement, okay, we still get a 28. It doesn't really, it's not too big. If you see, this one is 9.15. If we bring it back, it's 8.6. So it's just gonna be 5 millimeters difference. So it doesn't really matter. It's still based on the shoulder measurements. So, and that's the problem actually, because the shirt length is the distance from the shoulder to the hips. So these measurements as of right now, it's gonna be correct measurements if there is no shoulder slopes, right? If, you know, meaning that the shoulder and the neck form a straight line. But now that we have a shoulder slope, we have to add that extra length into our shirt measurements. Thankfully, it's digital, meaning that we don't have to redo it all from scratch. So we're just gonna do, we're just gonna add 3 centimeters to the bust part. So to do that, we're just gonna drag all faces and then drag it and minus 3 centimeters and create a new edge loops and with 3 number of cuts, and that's it. That's how you make it. That's how you adjust it, I mean. And yeah, it's done. Now if you check from the shoulder slopes to the bust line, sorry, it is still 28 because sorry, I should have shown it before. Okay, this one, if you measure from the shoulder slope to the bust line, you only have actually 25 now, because we give 3 centimeters to the shoulder slope, and that's why we adjust our shirt length. Okay, I just redo what I did. 3 cuts, and yeah, it's good. Remeasure thing, and we got shit. Okay, we got 28, and yeah, it's done. With that being done, we can then proceed to the armhole. My armhole measurement is 20 divided, 20. My armhole half circumference is 20. So just like the neck, we're kind of one measurement short, because we know that the half circumference is 20 centimeters, but we don't really know where to put it. We know that the armhole starts at this, the tip of the shoulders here, but we don't really know where it ends. So we'll have to do another measurements, and that new measurements is, well, you can actually reuse this thing, because what you're gonna need is actually extrude it along its z-axis until it is on level with this meeting point. Okay, let's extrude it one more time. This one. So yeah, this is the meeting point between the armhole and the bicep, and this new measurement should be on level with that. So yeah, maybe bring it up a little bit. Nice. Okay, that's it. Now we just have to measure this vertical line and do segment, and we got 13. Where to put it? Armhole, maybe the armhole. Vertical. 13 centimeters. Okay. But we got an odd number, 13, and that's a problem because we'll have to divide it by 2. So yeah, I mean, like, you got a 7, you got a 6.5. This way, I mean, like, it's bad. So I'm just gonna divide it, round it up to the 14. So that we got a nice round 7. So you may be thinking, why do we need to divide it by 2? Because the unique thing about the armhole is that it'll have to curve a little bit inside, and the highest point of that dip has to be in the middle vertically of the armhole length. If I am to draw an example, instead of doing this, curving down and then straight to the outside, the armhole actually has to curve a little bit inside before they go outside. And the highest point of that dip, this one, has to be in the middle vertically of the armhole length. So okay, with that explained, I guess, okay, just gonna hide the annotations and let's give a mark in here. Okay, we've got 14, just like we have measured, and just like what we do with the neck, to give it a signal, the mark should be something like this because it's easier for us to see. So this one is 14, and then we're also going to add the cut here, so people know that, you will know later that the directions is from this point to this point. Now we're gonna have to to find it's 14 divided by 2. We're going to add another mark in the 7th. Now dip it a little bit inside at the cut shader, and that's okay. So we're just gonna make another curve. Okay, let's go to edit mode, snap on, bring it to the top, bring it down to the edge, bring it up here, and also put it there. The same thing with the neck, so that they kind of correspond with each other. But now you have to drag this one up to the 7th face, something like that. Now if we read the length, we will get 17, and that's too small. So what we're gonna do, because you cannot remember that we have to dip them inside, so we're just gonna move it inside. Just grab the handle, the outer handle, and bring them inside along its axes, and let's do reading. Now it's 19, it's getting close. Bring it a little bit more. It's close. It's really close. Okay, that's really close. Okay, that's too much. Okay, that's good. Okay. Okay, I think that's all. Yeah, I think we can cut it. Okay, let's cut it. But before that, I think I'm just gonna make a duplicate for this in case we need it later. So yeah, the first cut that we're gonna do is here, the shoulder slope. Get one, and then we're gonna make, so here's the thing, of course, this is the bust, right? You should be cutting something like this, but you don't really need to. What you can actually do to cut a straight line from the armhole straight to the hip, to the waist, sorry. And from the waist we go to the hips. Now let's do the darts. This is how you make it. You just go from the middle to its width, go back to the middle, go to its 2 centimeters width, go, oh sorry, okay, let's do it again. Okay, that's, sorry. Okay, something like this. Okay, that's good. Checking in. And yes, that's all you need. Oh, I think we're also gonna add a little bit curve on the hem, that is the bottom here around the hips. If you take a look at shirts in your wardrobe, you'll realize that the hem is usually curved, right? Instead of a plain straight. So what we're gonna do is to make another curve and set the snapping tool, and then we're just gonna move them, this one to the middle, pull it down, and this one we put at the end of the tip of the hips measurements, and we're gonna pull it up 5 faces up, 5 centimeters up, and yeah, just gonna make sure that the handle meets in the middle. So the hips is 26 faces wide, so divided by 2 we got 13, so it should meet at the 13th face. So let's do it. Get the handles back to the 13. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. 1 2 3. This one right here, this one too, on the same spot, but it's just a little bit up, 5 faces up, and something like this. You should see that the handle is on the same spot horizontally, but different vertically. And that's for our hem. And yeah, so here's the thing, remember that the front and the back part of the neck is different. So here's a trick to save, again another trick to save a lot of time. We're gonna cut everything but the neck, and after that we can duplicate the mesh to get the front and back part. Okay, so let's cut it. Okay. I think it's great if we can rename it first. Armhole. This one is hem. Let's make another collections. It's called curves. Okay, let's hide it for now, and we're just gonna cut them. Now we've cut them, and now we just have to wait a minute. We have to armhole and the hem. For the armhole and the hem, we're just gonna use knife project. So pick the curves and then pick the mesh, go to edit mode, mesh, and knife project. And now you see, if you hide the curves, now our body mesh have a nice curve in them. The armhole and then the hem, and that's cool. And yes, we've got all the cuts but the neck, so we're gonna duplicate it, hide it. Now we're just gonna delete all the faces outside the cutting edge. Okay, faces, just gonna do the hem first. Okay, now let's do the sides. This is kind of a boring part of it, but just stay focus, because you don't want to pick the wrong face or miss any face, just like this small ones. Just want to make sure that you delete everything that needs to be deleted. Okay, that's it. The shoulder. Okay. We've got it all. And okay, let's delete it. Now we just need to delete the darts. Okay. So here's the thing about darts, is that it's easier to do now that you have to reconnect this two sides, but we're gonna delete it, so we only have a strand, an edge between these faces. So what we're gonna do is to pick all the edges, but the tip one, the tip edges, we just gotta, and then hit shift and pick the other side edges. Okay, something like that. And then we're gonna bridge edge loops, and we're gonna delete only faces. So yes, then we got this edges between these two edges, because that's how we're gonna use it, this sewing mechanism in cloth simulations. So we've cut it, and this is actually optional for all except for the armhole and neck, that you clean the mess. What do I mean by that? If you look closer, you'll see that there's a lot of these stray vertices, something like this, that is not attached to anything, because we cut them with the knife tool, and that's why we got these stray vertices. And you can not clean it, but I prefer to clean it, so that's what I'm gonna do. So to clean it, actually it's easy. You just have to merge this to the next vertex and merge at last, and voila, you get a nice triangle. Do it all. You can use the shift R to repeat the last actions and to save some time. The hem to now, when you cut things with a curve and then you use knife project, you'll see this extra stray vertices that literally have nothing to attach to, and that too we're gonna clean. And these are vertices, and the next we're gonna handle the normal stray vertices. And yeah, we've done the sides, we've done the hem, and we're gonna do the shoulders. Okay, the armhole too, we're gonna clean it. So I've mentioned earlier that except the armhole and the neck, and the reason for that is they're kind of special because, as you may have realized, that they must have a specific number of edges because they're gonna be attached to other meshes whose number of edges will be the same. For example, the armhole is gonna be attached to the arm mesh. So this edge, the edges here should match with the edges on the arm. Does it make sense? Okay. Now we know that from our measurements that the armhole is 20 centimeters. So we're gonna make this curve to have 20 edges, representing 20 centimeters of the armhole, half circumference. It's just easier, I think, for us to remember when the edge count represents the actual circumference. So we are at 22. We have to remove extra 2 edges, and that is 1. And I guess I'm just gonna pick this one. Got 2. So if you check this, and you got 20 edges, and that's cool. That's it, I guess. Okay, checking in. Got nice. Okay, it's done. Okay, that's good. So we're just gonna duplicate it twice. One for the front, body front, and this one body back. Okay, start with the front, pick the curve, pick the mesh, edit mode, mesh, knife project. Now we're just gonna hide the curves and delete all the faces inside. The same thing with this. Remember that the front part of the neck has 12 circumference, 12 centimeters. So we're just gonna have 12 edges. First, we're just gonna delete all the stray vertices, and let's count the edges. And we've got 14, so we need to remove 2 edges. Okay, this one, I think, and hang on, yeah, this one, and this tiny one down here. So because it's so small, what I'm gonna do is actually something like this. Now you've removed 2 edges, and we've got 12 in total. Okay, that's for the front. And now go back to, now we go to the back and turn on the curves, select the curve, the mesh, edit, mesh, knife project, hide the curve, edit mode, and we're just gonna same, delete all faces, delete all the stray vertices, not that one, and yeah, let's check the number of Okay, we got 10. We just have to eliminate one edge. This one, I think, is kind of suitable. And we've got 9, and that's good. Yes, we've got the back, we've got the front, and yeah, I guess that's... Oh, this one's is actually small things, but I think I'm just gonna duplicate it, hide it, and I'm gonna pull it up. Okay, 26 centimeters probably, so that I like it that these meshes have their origins at their bottom, at the bottom part of the mesh. So that's what we're gonna do, and just gonna set origin to 3D cursors, and yeah, now it has the origin at the bottom of the mesh, and also that if you check the transformation, it has a nice 0 locations on them. Okay, I think that's it for the body mesh. Okay, now we'll proceed with the arm mesh. Okay, this is what we have. The body, we've got the body, the back one, and the body, the front. We are done with it, and we're just gonna hide it for now. And now we go to the arm and cuff. That's it. So this one, same thing with the last, we're just gonna have a mirror, but instead of along its x-axis, we just we'll do it along its y-axis for the arm. Okay, that's it. Okay, now we've got our base plane. So the same, I think the next is the same. We're just gonna, add shaders to them so that we can color code each part, and of course one extra for the cut shader. So it's gonna be same three shaders. And now you'll wonder, because the arm length, if you notice that it's only divided into 2, right? I mean, like the elbow and the cuff, that is the upper arm and then the forearm. So what's the third? Well, it's called cap, and that's actually the area between the tip. Let me bring out our model and then the measurements. So the tip at the cap is the area between the tips of the shoulder, this one, and the tip of the bicep measurements. If you see that, it's basically from this point to, let me bring annotations. It's basically the area between here, the tip of the shoulder measurements, and then the start of the arm length measurements, to this. This is the bicep measurements, and this distance is called cap. We didn't really measure it for the reason that you're about to find out. So we know the arm length, and we have determined the, let's hide it. We know the arm length, and we have determined where the elbow is. That's 27 and 24. but we haven't really determined where to put the bicep. The reason for that is because the bicep placement is kind of flexible. Depending on the shape of the curve we're gonna make, you can place it high or low. But you don't really have to bother with it by now because it's kind of complicated and probably it's worth another series. But for now, I'll just show you how to make the standard curve for shirt that will yield great overall result. Okay, let's hide it and we go back to our fabric. Okay, first I think we're just gonna add that shader. It's called cap. It's called let's just call it upper arm and then lower arm. Okay, let's do the cap. I think we're just gonna have the same color with the previous one. Sorry, it should be 0. It's the upper arm. And for the lower arm, it's gonna be purple. Okay. First of all, we are gonna, just like we did with the shirts, we gonna color code the arm mesh. Okay, so the first thing is we're gonna cut it because our arm length is only 51 centimeters. So we're gonna measure 51, get the next, this one, and then this one, instead of cutting it, we're just gonna make it to the, we're gonna mark it with the cut, which I haven't had. We're just gonna use the cut from the earlier, so this one, and we're gonna assign it to the cut. So okay, that's good. Now we just gotta color code the elbow cuff measurements. It's 27 and 24. This one is 27. Okay, this one is upper arm, and this one is gonna be the lower arm. Okay, now we're just gonna mark the bicep half circumference, and that is 18. Okay, it's too much, getting 18. Go to the next one, go assign. So we're just gonna mark the entire thing, this one, with cut. Okay, so it's easier for us to see. So now we're going to determine where our cap is gonna be. So to do that, we're just gonna make another curve. Okay, same thing, just pick one, put it in the middle, bring it up as well as this one should be here, should be on the right side, this one on the top, this one on the right, and bring it down. Okay, now the strategy is actually the same with how we do the hem. So we just have to make sure that they kind of, these handles meet in the middle. So we know that it's 18 divided by 2 is gonna give us 9. So we're just gonna put it on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This one too on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we see they have the same placement horizontally, but they're kind of separated vertically. And yeah, let's give them a little bit of reading measure. So how long is that? It's 19. Okay, so we're just gonna move it down. Okay, and let's see how long. Okay, that's a little bit closer. Okay, that is too much, I guess. We've got 20.2. So here's the thing, there's two options you can do it. This is what I mentioned about this being flexible, because you can do it with 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can do it with 7, and then you can scale it, because now it's 19. You can scale it up until it gets 20, something like this, right? But you can also do it, you can put it this on the 8th face, and you can now scale it down actually until you get a 20, right? Something very low, something like that. Now that's the reason why I call it to be flexible. But personally, for these demonstrations, I think I'm just gonna do with the 7th, I guess. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 should be here. Okay, this one, the first option. Then we're gonna scale it up until we get 20. Yeah, that's the curve, and that's our cap actually, and we're gonna mark it. Okay, this one is the cap. Voila. And yeah, what we can do next is, okay, I forgot to put it in the cut, is to get on with the elbow and cuff. For the elbow, we've got 14 here. Go to the next face, go to cut, and for the cuff we need 10, something here. Okay, and that's it. That's our arm. And yeah, before we cut them, I think we're just gonna get on with the cuff first, because we're gonna make it here too. So I think we're just gonna add one more shader, and that is cuff. Let's get a nice different color. I'm thinking of more of a green. Sorry. Okay, and we're gonna put all faces below this cutting faces to the cuff shader, like that. And now we can get on with making cuffs. So how to make cuff? Okay, the cuff width is gonna be 5 centimeters, though the cuff width is not set on stone. It's 5 this way I'm gonna make it 5, but it's not really exact. You can play around with this because in the real shirts too, the cuffs actually vary. Some are thinner while others are thicker. But for this demonstration, I'll just pick 5. So this is 5 and go to the next phase, get a cut. And now the length. The length, though it should be 20, it should be 10 divided by 2. Get 20 divided by 2 and get 10. But for the cuffs, we are going to add an offset of 2 centimeters. So it's gonna be 12, and we're gonna mark the cut here. Just like what we did with all the measurements, the cut marks along the edges. We're just gonna do this. We're just gonna make this 3 faces thing, and that's it. If you check, it is 12 in length, 5 in width, and yeah. So the next thing, I guess, you will see that if we cut it like this, you will get a sharp edge. For example, just gonna delete it. You have this very sharp edge. Meanwhile, if you notice that the cuffs, they kind of rounded, the corners are kind of rounded. So that's, I think, what we're gonna do next. Just make another bezier. We're going to snap it. So to make the curve, we just need like 2 faces down, something here. So we don't need the curves to be really all the way in the middle, something like this. So instead, we just need the tip of it. So yeah, that should be enough. I think we're gonna going with 3, I think, just to make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's it. Cool. Okay, now we proceed with cutting it, but before that, we're just gonna duplicate it in case we need it later. So let's cut this. Start from the bicep to the elbow, and then from the elbow to the cuff. Sorry. Okay. We've done it, and then yeah, I think that's one cut. And next we're just going to, let's name it cap, and then this one cuff corners. Okay, we're just gonna pick these 2 curves, and then the mesh, go edit mode, mesh, knife project, and hide the curves, and then we can cut it. We can delete all the faces that we don't need. Okay, do this quickly so I don't bore you to death. Okay, all this to be cut. Same thing with this. Okay. Now get on with the cuffs. Okay. Now let's clean this up. Stray vertices. Well, it's kind of clean on the sides. They don't have any stray vertices this time. Well, that's kind of odd. But yeah, I guess that's it. Now we're gonna clean up the cap curve from these stray vertices. And again, this is gonna be attached to the armhole, to the body, through the armhole that we have set to have a 20 edges. So this one should have 20 edges. We got 24, so we just need to delete 4 edges. Okay, we've got 1, we've got 2, okay, another 2, where is it? Where should I put it? I think this one. And then this one. Cool. Yeah. Okay. We get a nice 20. So now we have to clean the cuff. As you can see, you've got a lot of these stray vertices, but actually you don't really need to delete all of them, because if you do delete all of them, you get this kind of a jagged curve. That's not what we want. And since this is kind of a decorative, I mean, like, just to make it look good, so you don't really need to be strict with this. You can leave the stray vertices there, because you're not gonna attach it with anything, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's for the arm and cuff. And let's duplicate it. I guess I'm just gonna do what I did earlier with the body. I'm just gonna move it side to the sides until it's nice in the 0 point. Hang on, I think I'm just gonna do it in one move, and it's 0.5. And then we're just gonna set origin to 3D cursor, and yeah, that's it for the arm and cuff. The next and the last, and its color, is actually the most complicated part, because it's got a lot of numbers in it. So please just bear with me. And yeah, to help us, actually I've brought some color template that I have made earlier, so that you can see where we're going with this. And let's hide it, and it's here. So yeah, this is going to be our template. So let's move it upwards a little bit, and yeah, let's make our color mesh. Okay, we've got this color mesh from earlier, and the first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to mirror it, and yep, and also we don't really need the bottom part, the bottom half, so we're just gonna delete that as well. And so here's the thing about color. The first, it's actually made of two separate meshes. As you can see, one is the base and the other is the color itself. And as you can see that the color, this is where it gets complicated, because color is kind of curved. It's not like straight, so that's kind of the tricky part about it. And yeah, the second thing that is kind of tricky is that the color, the base of the color, if you can see it, that it's thicker in the middle, but as it goes outwards it gets smaller. And the other way around, it's true with the color, that it's thinner in the middle, but as it goes outwards it gets bigger. And yeah, I think I'm just to keep that in mind. So let's go back to our fabric, our color mesh. The first thing is we're gonna color code it. First is base, second is color. Oh, sorry. Now so let's do this. The first thing we're gonna need is the measurements, our neck measurements. My neck is, my half circumference of the neck is 21 centimeters. So we're just gonna measure it, 21. Get the next face, and oh, I forgot the cut. Apply it. So we got a nice 21 faces, the correct number. And from this, we're going up 2 centimeters. So in total, it is 3 centimeters. And assign it to cut. This will determine our angle. This angle down here. So yeah, to make the angle, we're going to bring in another curve. The same thing, I guess, with the snapping mode. That's but now, because we have an extreme difference between the length and then the width, so what we're gonna do to make a nice curve is basically to create a diagonal with this. So it's something like this. This one, but I think I'm just gonna make it 6 so that it curves better. While this one, they also have 6 faces apart. 3, 4, 5, 6, and yeah, this is kind of a good curve. It has a nice curve into it. And after this, we're actually gonna measure this diagonal, this line, this angled line. And to do that, I'm just gonna bring in our old measurements, just gonna copy what's already there so that we can reuse it. Bring it back to 0, and so here's the thing. Okay, we're just gonna put one end at the tip of the edge and the other on top of it. We're just gonna use 3 faces here because for this measurements we're going to make it 3 centimeters in length. And how to do it, it's kind of simple. The first is that we have to determine its angle. Okay, so if I am to pull it here, it will create a 45 degrees, right? However, it's kind of too much for me, so I'm just gonna settle with 30 degrees in here. So it's 3 faces up and 2 faces inside. Okay, if you check its measurements now, it will give us, okay, let's show, sorry, delete, show segment, and then it will give us, let's override it so you can see it better. It will give us 3.6 centimeters. It's a little bit too long because we want 3 centimeters. So what I'm gonna do is basically get the tip, this one vertex at the end, and we're gonna move it down with G, turn off the snapping, and then go back again, move it with G, but now double press it, double click it, so now it will move along its edges. Because if you just move normally, it's kind of hard to keep it consistent. But if you double click G, now you can run it along the edges until it reaches 3 centimeters. Okay, that's good enough. And that's it. This is our curve, and this is our line. So we're just gonna need to duplicate it, bring it 4 centimeters up, and we just have to move this that it touches the tip of this line, and then we have to bring up the handle so that it touches the grid. And you can, however, snap it to here, but no, I just keep it there. So because it already has a nice curve to it, because we use this and it already has a nice curve, so I'm just gonna move it up, so like that. But however, if you want to move it a little bit to the side, it's okay, but it doesn't really change much, so I'm just gonna leave it there. And yeah, that's it. That's for our base. The next is actually we're gonna make another one of these, and we're going to duplicate it. So we are going to make the button part. So what we're going to need is actually make a 90-degree angle right here. So if you notice that these two lines create a 90-degree angle, because how to check it? Well, you can use measure. Sorry. Okay. Right, that's 90-degree angles. However, the length of this new line should be around 2. So just like what we did here, we're going to scale it down with double J, turn off the magnets until it hits 2. Okay, that's good. The next is we're going to make the curve. If you see the reference, we're going to make this curve, this one. So yeah, let's make it. To do that, we're just gonna duplicate this one and move it around with snapping tool. And okay, move it, this one the top one, this one the bottom one. I'm just gonna snap the handle here, okay, on the same spot, so it creates this nice curve. And yeah, that's it for the color, for the base of color at least. So, and then we're gonna make the color, the actual color. So before that, we're just gonna mark this area. Sorry. Mark this area with the color, except these two, as the base. Sorry. Okay, that's already the base. Oh, okay. I've kind of flipped. Okay, that's better. So now what we're gonna do is actually duplicate this and scale it. We want this edge now upside down, so we just scale it -1 in Y, and we're gonna bring it up. Turn off the magnets until it hits this. Okay, 4 centimeters up. And yeah, we're going to make the color to have the same amount, the same width. This is 4, so we're gonna make this 4 too. Just gonna put the cut here. Instead, actually just gonna do this so we can see. And yeah, where it ends, so this is where it ends, the handle. So from that, I'm just gonna get 2 centimeters side to the side and mark it with the cut, something like that. And yeah, I think we're ready to cut it. Let's duplicate it in case we're gonna need it later. First is to pick all the curves. and then pick the mesh, edit mode, mesh, bisect. Sorry. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna put this in curves. So wait a minute. Okay. I think I haven't cut it. So I think I'm just gonna name it first. Base bottom, base top, button curve, button. Just call it button. I'm not really sure because actually this part is gonna be the top button, the first button in your shirt. So that's why probably I name it button. And this one is color. Okay, just move it to the curves. Okay, and we've select the curves, select the mesh, edit mode, and knife project. Okay, that works. Okay, hide the curves, and we can get on with the knife tool. You can just click this, also this one too, and then this one. Okay, that has been cut, and we're just gonna clean it up, I guess. Oh, okay. Before that, I think I'm just gonna duplicate it once again before I delete all the faces. Okay, that's cool. Oops, what happens? Okay, gonna delete all this. Okay, delete the faces, and okay, let's clean it up. Okay, stray vertices, this tiny little vertex, don't miss that, because okay, we don't have to bother with the curves, but I guess this 3 vertices we're just gonna have deleted, and then just gonna merge this one and this one too. Okay, we keep these this vertices so that it has a nice curve, and let's get on with this. And Okay, so this is the checking. So we're just gonna check that because this curve, this one, is gonna be attached to the neck part of the body mesh, which has 21 faces, 21 edges, right? So just make sure that this has 21 edges, and right now it has 23, so we just have to cut 2, this one and this one, and now we've got a 21. Okay, 21. And then next that we need to check is this. It has 20 edges, so this too should have a 20 edges, which is not the case, meaning that it's different. There's something that I didn't delete. And where is it? This one, yeah, that tiny little vertex. Okay. Now, if we check again, it should have the same amount of edges, which is still not. Okay, sorry. This is 20, it's good, and it's 20, which is the same. And that's what we want. And yeah, that's for the color actually. Yeah, that's for the color. And yes, I think I've got it all. We've got it all. I mean, like, we got the arm and cuff, we've got the body, and then we've got the collar. So I guess yes, we did it. I think we have finished this part, I guess. And yeah, I guess I see you in the next part.